This is K2 News at 5 on your side.
Labor unions, along with the Portland Democratic Socialists of America, rallied for a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war and an end to apartheid in Palestine. The rally gathered at Sewall-Crest Park, where union representatives spoke and were followed by a march. Olivia Catby, one of the organizers for the rally, said there is one main message.
Ceasefire now. That is the main message. Our congressional delegation has not called for a ceasefire yet, even though unions and the vast majority of American people want a ceasefire. So we are hoping that they will heed our call today.
Today, Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pushed back against international calls for a ceasefire, saying it would only be possible if Hamas releases all of their hostages.
We don't want to wait until the problem is so overwhelming that it doesn't matter what we do. It's going to be a drop in the bucket. So that's really the point of doing it now.
The city of Vancouver declaring a state of emergency because of the growing homelessness crisis. The city says it's seen a 253% increase in homelessness over the past decade. K2's Emily Gersh reports.
If we can see people actually leave the street and stay off the street, that's the direction that we want to go. The emergency declaration just underscores all of that.
Tyler Chavers is a Vancouver police officer on the Homeless Assistant Resource Team, also known as HART. The team was created in 2020 to address a growing homeless problem, which Chavers thinks was caused by a variety of factors, including the pandemic. He also thinks Oregon legislation that decriminalized small amounts of hard drugs played a role.
In my 26-year career, I've never imagined I'd watch somebody actually ingest, what used to be a felony substance in my presence with impunity, which is really sad.
Data from the city shows that during a June head count, almost half of the homeless population became homeless outside Vancouver, leading some to speculate they came from Oregon. The data also shows that 60% of unhoused people reported substance abuse as a contributing factor for being homeless. The city says fentanyl is the most widely used drug in the camps.
The amount of these that I'm just seeing scattered on the ground is unreal to me. It's unreal to me.
Vancouver's homeless response manager Jamie Spinelli says the city can't wait to solve the drug epidemic before they house the homeless. She says they need shelter now, and this emergency declaration will provide more funding towards this problem and also close up to 48 acres of land used for homeless camps.
I think leaving people outside while we wait for that system to be fixed, or we wait for enough of those beds to come on board, or we wait for enough housing to be built, I think that is a mistake because people die out here.
In Vancouver, Emily Gersh, K2 News.
President Biden this Veterans Day leading a moment of silence as he lays a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier at Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia. It was a personal ceremony for the president and the First Lady as they remember their son Beau, who died of brain cancer after having served in Iraq.
Like it was yesterday, I can still hear what he told me when he signed up to serve. I said, Beau, why? It's God's truth. He said, Dad, it's my duty. Duty. That was the code my son lived by and the creed that millions of veterans have followed.
The president's speech came on the 105th anniversary of the end of World War I, but his message mainly focused on today's veterans, who he describes as the steel spine of the nation. In honor of Veterans Day, the University of Portland observed the holiday with a number of activities. On Friday, cadets from the ROTC program at the university stood watch for a 24-hour vigil honoring veterans. Today, a ceremony featured speakers, and one of them spoke on the significance of the holiday. Take a listen.
Veterans Day is significant because it honors service to the nation and everybody that serves. And that's important because people who do serve have sacrificed a lot for the country, and it's good to honor them.
There was supposed to be a flyover during today's event. However, it was canceled. In honor of the holiday, the Oregon Historical Society is also offering free admission for all veterans, active duty, and their family members on both Saturday, that's today, and Sunday, tomorrow. The museum's current exhibitions include one of the history of the society celebrating 125 years. The other is Birds of the Pacific Coast. The museum will be open tomorrow from noon till 5 p.m. This week, Oregon lawmakers heard from law enforcement agencies around the state about the impacts of Measure 110. The voter-approved law decriminalized small amounts of hard drugs. KATU's Christina Giardinelli has more.
A couple of weeks ago, the Legislative Committee on Addiction and Community Safety heard from treatment and recovery providers. This week, the committee heard from law enforcement officers across the state. Most of them advocated for changes to ballot measure 110. Should Oregon modify its drug decriminalization laws? And if so, how? It's a question a new interim committee on lawmakers has been considering. This week, the committee heard from law enforcement officers like Aaron Schmaus with the Portland Police Bureau. He says what police need are more tools and resources.
If someone is using drugs in public, we just don't have an abatement tool available to us today.
He says if lawmakers consider making open public drug use a misdemeanor, for example, they will also need to think about what resources police can rely on to encourage treatment instead of putting drug users in jail.
I can imagine when someone has been to jail and that's been a very bad place for them, if the police can say, listen, you need help, and I'm just telling you right now, you need to go somewhere. And I don't want to be the vector for that. Here's this other place you can go. And if we can build up those trusting systems, it would reduce force, it would reduce negative interactions with law enforcement, it would provide people some hope.
Some officers like Lincoln County Sheriff Curtis Landers say possession of hard drugs should be reclassified as a misdemeanor, but with diversion options, allowing criminal charges to be dismissed if the offender completes treatment.
Restoring this to a crime is not about putting people in jail or adding a crime to the record which would hinder their success in the future. It's about getting people the help to break free from a cycle of addiction.
He says police should play a role in getting people into services through drug courts and parole officers. But some community correction officers say before doing that, lawmakers should fund inpatient and outpatient treatment services statewide.
Deschutes County, currently, when I was preparing for this presentation, inpatient referrals are a 5-month wait.
The people who visited Portugal say when the country decriminalized drugs, it also put into place a number of policy and funding solutions for treatment. They say Oregon should follow that model. They're also saying Oregon's problem with fentanyl is much more severe than that in Portugal, and the solutions should be different. In Salem, Christina Giardinelli, KATU News.
All right, now we got to talk about the weather. Joe, I know that just before the show we were looking at some of the live looks from our from kind of the weather cams that we have. It's pretty ominous outside right now.
A little dark.
Yeah,
a little
dark,
gray.
a little spooky outside right now. Is there any sign of the sun coming out?
In fact, you can see that right there. Yeah, be patient. Give it a few days, and then we're going to see things dry out, and you will get a good dose of sunshine by the end of the week. Let's take a look at your weather headlines. Chance of showers overnight tonight. Should be a pretty dry start on Sunday. And then Sunday afternoon and into the evening overnight, that's where we're going to see really the last noticeable rain, I think, for the next week or so. Those sunnier days are coming up by the end of the week. Radar picture right now, you see some showers still lingering over northwest Oregon, southwest Washington, some snow in the higher elevations of the Cascades, drier off to the east side of the Cascades. One little band of showers right here from Newburgh up into the east side or west side of the metro area into the gorge. This is all moving to the north and northeast, and that's not a lot of rain, and that's going to about do it for overnight. A couple of tenths of an inch in the last 24 hours for Portland and Vancouver. Raining on the coast, so most of the rain we've had has gone up into southwest Washington, really farther north than that, but an inch plus in Astoria, and pretty dry conditions you can see in the last 24 hours for central and eastern Oregon. Nice warm temperatures, at least this time of year anyway. 60 in Redmond, 60 in the Dalles, mid-50s in Portland and Vancouver, right about average. There's our weather maker this morning. Really kicked up the wind on the coast, mid-40s with gusts of 35 in Portland, but that calmed down. That rain eased up. Here's our next weather maker coming in here. We're going to get that rain first and then the cooler air behind it. You'll notice that later on in the week. Rain on the coast right now at the Inn at Spanish Head Resort Hotel in Lincoln City. From Stoller Family Estates, lots of clouds out there, 52 degrees. Dry out in the gorge, a little clearer from our Visit HoodRiver.com camera. From the Touchmark camera in the West Hills, looking over Washington County, 55 degrees and cloudy. 55 and cloudy from the C-Tran camera on top of the Vancouver Library. And from the Standard camera downtown, your evening planner, we go from 55 degrees right now to about 50 degrees at 10 o'clock, generally dry through the evening after that last little band of rain moves through. Here we go with your hour-by-hour forecast. Coast will get the rain first in the morning, then about 2 or 3 o'clock, we start to see that show up in the metro area, hangs in there with us until Monday morning. That cold front is not really going to kick up a lot of wind. It will bring some cooler air, lowering the snow level in the Cascades a bit. Then you see this weather maker down to the south. That's not actually going to get in here. So we don't get a whole lot of rain, but maybe another third of an inch before we start to dry out. And we will see that sunshine on the way as we go into Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, possibly mostly sunny skies for you, and any snow in the Cascades, the higher elevations. Cloudy on the coast, rain late morning, midday. You're going to see that first into the afternoon for the valley and the metro area, later in the day for the gorge and the Cascades, and should wear out by the time it gets to central and eastern Oregon. So here's your 7-day forecast for you. Looking for a high of 56 on Sunday, 54 on Monday, and there's that rain Sunday afternoon and evening, overnight drying out, and there's your sunnier days. Not necessarily warmer. Thursday and Friday, you notice, though, the overnight lows drop down into the 30s, so a little chilly with the clearer skies by the end of the week.
Definitely getting colder out there.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Joe. And also new tonight, the Columbia Gorge Model Railroad Club, kicked off their open house for the 2023 year. The club says they have been hard at work all spring and summer and are excited to welcome guests back to their new layout. Nick Neal, who was visiting the museum with his father, said it was a family tradition to visit. Neal said he hasn't been back in 15 years.
Now the scale of the museum has changed a lot as I grew. Yeah, it's a little smaller, but still amazing. I don't have to peek up, although they do have many stools for the less vertically gifted.
Very thoughtful. The 2023 open house is running from today and will continue on Saturday and Sunday until December 3rd. General admission tickets and VIP tours of the club are available on their website. And we are just hours away from the highly anticipated matchup between the USC Trojans and the Oregon Ducks. Trojans will take on number 6 ranked Ducks in Autzen Stadium at 7:30 tonight for some Pac-12 after dark action. The stakes are high for both teams tonight. They're both vying for a spot in the Pac-12 championship game. Oregon is still in the college football playoff race, and Bo Nix's campaign for the Heisman continues. This will be USC's first time back at Autzen Stadium since 2015. The Ducks have won 4 of the last 5 matchups against the Trojans since 2012. And before we go here tonight, hundreds gathered in New York City today to welcome the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree. It's an annual tradition that is certainly well known. The 80-year-old Norway spruce stands up about 80 feet tall, is 43 feet wide. It comes from Vestal, New York. It was cut down on Thursday before making the 200-mile journey all the way to the Big Apple. And while it looks bare right now, it's going to be dressed up with more than 50,000 LED lights soon, and it's going to be crowned with a 9-foot, 900-pound Swarovski star covered in 3 million crystals. That's a whole lot of crystals. The lighting ceremony is scheduled for November 29th, and the tree will stay up until January 13th. How do they get that top on? Just 9 million crystals. That's a lot for a Christmas tree top. All right, well, hey, that's all our time here. Thanks for watching this digital edition of KATU News. We're going to be back on air after the game on KATU around 8 o'clock. We'll see you then.